the Global Confederation of Higher Education Associations for Agriculture and Life Sciences World Agricultural Prize. And more recently, he was awarded the prestigious Africa Food Prize in Kigali. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me as we welcome Professor Agric Danquah, the one we call Bobo.
Yes, one and only senior, Bobo.
You see, I didn't add a senior.
Yes, you have to add senior. You will kneel down.
I'm sitting in the chair and I'm interviewing him. So I can afford not to call him senior. Bobo, thank you so much for making time to join us. We know you're quite tight. Your time is quite tight. You're preparing for big things ahead. We know that, like we said, you've been unleashed onto the world. You've gone beyond our boundaries. And that is what PRESEC is all about, to prepare us for moments like this. But before we start, there might be a few who would like to know who Professor Agric Danquah is.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Homo Nikwe Kuma. It was great to meet you in Kigali a few weeks ago. A very good morning to all my hosts over here and to your cherished listeners. Ni Agric Danquah is someone who is very passionate about quality education in the plant sciences for agricultural development. In fact, this has been my passion for over 3 decades. But more important is my Presbyterian life. I'm a Presbyterian true and pure, but at the present time I fellowship with Baptist at Legon Baptist Church for convenience, actually, for convenience. Additionally, I can say that because I love sports, I'm a die-hard fan of Accra House of Folk, the one and only. But more important, Nikwe Kuma, I am nationalistic with a commitment to probity, accountability, and transparency. That's who I am. I can go on to talk a bit about myself if you want me to do that at this stage in the conversation. I grew up at Akusumbo, where I had my basic education at the Akusumbo Experimental School. In fact, I was so delighted when sometime in July 1972, I received a letter at Akusumbo Experimental School signed by then headmaster Ike Dacha. And the letter was titled Interview, Common Entrance Examination 1972. Fast forward, I was interviewed at the old site of PRESEC, that's Odubasi Krobo Secondary School. The interviewers introduced themselves as, I didn't know them, Mr. Clay, Mr. Laval, and Miss Caesar. I was later to learn the true names of the interviewers. We called one of them Mr. Kunedu Laval, who taught us French. I can say that the interview was very lively, and I was privileged to find myself in PRESEC in September 1972. Do I go on?
Go ahead, Bobo. Go ahead.
Okay. So PRESEC was fun. My years in PRESEC were, I would say, my most memorable years in my life. First year, I found myself in Accra House Perhaps not anyone's favorite house. Let me tease the Acro guys. But one remarkable thing that happened in Acro House was that in Form 1 we played the inter-house football competition, and I came out as the goal king, scoring 3 goals in the competition and being crowned as the goal king. In fact, one of the school team players played in that competition. He scored 2 goals. And my good friend Kwabena Anson, now chairman of Liberty Professionals, did wonder why I wasn't immediately called into the Presec football team. I didn't end up in this football team. So that was Form 1. And Form 2, all students in Presec were reassigned to the houses. So I ended up in the house of choice, of course, in Presec. You know already. I don't have to say that. That is the famous Kwanzaa House, House 1. So in Form 2, I was in Kwanzaa House, and life was great. And Kwanzaa House was great for so many reasons. In fact, one thing we did not understand was how Reese House boys got into the dining hall before us. Because we were closest, Kwanzaa House is closest to the dining hall, but you always found Reese House boys in the dining hall ahead of Kwanzaa House boys. In fact, Form 2 was an interesting time in our lives. I recall found myself in 2D. 2D was, I would say, the best class in the university at the, in Presec at the time. One, because almost everyone was so talented intellectually and also a gifted football player. And we played inter-house competition in 1973, and we ended up, 2D ended up in the finals. We faced lower 6 with the dining hall prefect, this giant senior Johnny in the post, the school goalkeeper. But we ended up victorious. 2D won the interclass football competition then.
Wow.
In 1973. Academically, we're all great. I recall, I think this is a point I would like to connect to my closing remarks at the end of this interview. I recall in a conversation with one of my good friends in Kwanzaa House in 1973 when we came to Form 2. He said he didn't understand. He was second in the end of semester exams the previous term. And I said, oh, I came first. And he said, oh. And we ended up great friends, and we were steady partners, and a great guy. I'll connect this later on in the conversation. But I would say Presec was great, and maybe I'll pause here for the earlier years in Presec, and then talk about agriculture when you come in.
Yes, indeed. Prof, it's interesting to listen to you. And for listeners, this is a personality profile. So please indulge us so we can join Prof on his journey, the journey he's been on to get to this point. And that is why I really will crave your indulgence that we listen. You know, we went to the school. We had different experiences, but every single experience comes back to the canvas of life, and that is how we piece them together so we can see the greater and the bigger picture. So, Prof, we're really thankful. But for me, the one that really puts me to makes me at peace is the fact that Acro House shaped your life. You may never agree, but I tell you, Acro House is the one that shaped your life.
What a bias! What a bias!
So take note. But Prof, I think that having said all that, and your passion for agriculture, the life, the plant sciences, it takes us to that point where we just want to find out a little bit more. What influenced your choice of agriculture as a course in the university? And why crop science?
Wow, interesting question, Ni. I think I will go back to Presec. I took agriculture as an elective subject from 3 to Form 5. And you know, Presec that time was perhaps the #1 school in the country, if not all of West Africa. And Presec chose the creme de la creme to the sixth form science college. So when we got to lower six, the then assistant headmaster, Mr. Etua Aferi, had advised strongly most of those who did elective agriculture to join the lower six Agric class. We're not obliged, but a number of my classmates did not. They went to either the math or biology class, but I said, well, Etua Aferi says Agric was going to become important. No, let me not change, let me just do Agric. So I did it. And at the time, the combination was agriculture, biology, chemistry. And if you did those 3 subjects, you were not eligible for the medical school or even the sciences in Legon. So you were destined for the Faculty of Agriculture. So I would say that my path to agriculture at Legon was divine. I mean, on the advice of Etua Aferi, because if I had done physics or mathematics, I could have gone with my colleagues, my good friends, to Tech to do any of those courses, or to Legon to do medicine. But of course, I chose Agric, and Agric was perhaps defined for me, and that's how I ended up in the Faculty of Agriculture in Legon.
Right.
In Legon, I would say in Legon, we had choices. We had animal science. I didn't know you did animal science. Great subject. Let me admit that I wanted to offer animal sciences in Legon. You know why? The animal science department in Legon at the time was, in my opinion, the department of choice, because you had those professors you would easily look up to as role models. Someone like Prof. Asuku, Prof. Yanu, Prof. Pom, Prof. Umbila. We just loved, not that we didn't love the crop science lecturers, but of course, animal science I thought was the best resource department at the time in the University of Ghana. But it happened that when we reopened for the first semester of the final year, the first term of the final year, I could not report to campus on time. I was about a week late, and for good reasons, actually. I was somewhere on my uncle's poultry farm. And so when I got to the notice board, all of the topics for project work had been taken, but one. Of course, people were offered choices, and at the time I could go to animal science, crop science, or soil science. And the only topic left was on grass. I said, what? Me? Grass? No. You know, I research on grass for animal feed. No, then let me do crops instead of grass. So that's what took me to the Department of Crop Science. So again, we see that again my path was defined to the crop sciences by some divine intervention that no, you were not animal science destined. That's why I was late. Crop science is your baby. Just go to crop science. So that's how come I ended up in crop science.
It's amazing to hear such stories and to for the young Ɔdadeɛ to reflect, because sometimes we battle a lot of things.
Yeah.
Because we want things to go in a certain direction for us.
Yeah.
But I think it's time for us to start reflecting on that still small voice, those unimaginable opportunities that come our way. And I'm just reflecting on Atuafari's prophecy at the time.
That's right.
That agriculture will become very relevant, and agriculture is very, very relevant.
That's right.
So indeed, it is heartwarming that, I mean, this journey, although it was not totally planned as, is really taking you, to greater heights, and we can only thank God for that. Having said that, Prof, I just want us to look at this West Africa Center for Crop Improvement, which you were a founding director, or you are the founding director. Let me put it that way. What is this project all about?
Thank you, Ni. Well, the West Africa Center for Crop Improvement, WACI in short we call it, is an award-winning institution. In fact, today it's perhaps one of the leading one of the leading institutions for plant breeding education in the entire wide world, and I will tell you why. In 1994, I had taken a good PhD at Cambridge University, and at the time there were too many choices for postdoctoral research. At the time, you went to Cambridge, you did the good sciences, and any university in the US or UK wanted you for a postdoc because we had to work on DNA, which was like in vogue. But I said, no. I had to come back to Ghana. Of course, I had gone to Cambridge on a Commonwealth scholarship. So I came to Ghana. First 10 years, 1994 to 2003, were very challenging years. You couldn't find any good place for good research. So I traveled to Cornell University, one of the universities where I could go for my postdoc I didn't go to. And with a colleague, we had conversations over there, and that was in May 2006. No, May 2007, actually. At the time, someone in Cornell, my collaborator, could tell us that Bill Gates was going to invest in an institution in Africa, and it was possible to launch a collaborative project. And so quickly, over lunch, we developed a concept on that day in Cornell, and before Bill Gates announced that he and Rockefeller were putting money into the establishment of the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa, we had developed a proposal looking for funding to establish a plant breeding center at the University of Ghana. Of course, the Rockefeller Foundation did commission a consultant to assess universities in West Africa for their suitability to host the West Africa Center for Crop Improvement. Incidentally, also, by divine provision, the consultant who was doing the study was working with Cornell University, the very gentleman we had gone to see. And so he said, look, I know Eric. He can lead this initiative. Let's establish the center in the University of Ghana. So that's how come WACI was established in the University of Ghana. Today, fast forward 15 years, we have enrolled 160 PhD students in plant breeding. If you check your books, you can check University of, is it University of Rome or what you have in Rome?
Yeah, we have the University of Rome.
Yeah, you can check University of Rome, or their top plant breeding institutions in Rome. You can check Cornell, Purdue, Michigan State, Iowa State. You can go to Wageningen even and check the records. If they have been able to turn out 105 PhDs in plant breeding in 15 years, you wouldn't find that. More important is that our PhD students have become history makers in their research institutions. They have developed over 200 improved varieties of crop plants, which are at different stages of commercialization in their home institutions. If you look at their publications, oh my God, in high impact journals, over 250 publications, and more important is the value in terms of returns to their institutions. They have attracted over $57 million to their research institutions. For me, this is proof of concept that we can train Africans in Africa for Africa. And of course, the Africans we turn out are making impact in Africa. In Legon, at the West Africa Center for Crop Improvement itself, what we have done is that in Ghana today, if you are looking for hybrid maize varieties, you can't bypass our hybrid maize varieties, 3 that we have released in Ghana. They yield between 9 to 11 tons per hectare. These are the highest yielding maize varieties ever released in this country. We are partnering with a startup company in Koforidua, Legacy Crop Improvement Center, to scale up multiplication of the hybrid seed. But I can say that now some seed companies in Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger have access to a hybrid seed through collaborations with our commercial partner. Then also in tomato, we have been able to collaborate with the World Vegetable Center and release tomato varieties which yield between 48 to 52 tons per hectare. And if you read the statement by the president of Ghana, Danquah Akufo-Addo, at the launch of the Wedi tomato factory, he gave high praise to the West Africa Center for Crop Improvement for releasing tomato varieties. In fact, we are racing against time to get those varieties to farmers. Of course, it involves partnership with the private sector. We as scientists, we do our good science. If the policy environment is right, we hope that the varieties that we develop will be taken up. But I can say that we have done that. More important is that we have created a world-class environment, a sustainable world-class environment for the continuous training of the next generation of scientists for this country and for West Africa and for the world. And I'm looking for the time when anyone from anywhere in the world, from Italy, from Spain, from Asia, from America, wanting to work on tropical crops, choose the West Africa Center for Crop Improvement as the first choice for study at the PhD level in plant breeding. We want to become #1 globally. So this is how the center is gaining prominence all over the world. And of course, you did mention the Gichera World Agriculture Prize. That is a serious, meritorious award. And when you receive it, you know that, hey, the work that you do is world class. And of course, the Africa Food Prize. So these 2 awards point to the kind of work. And, you know, at work, we have a winning team, a scientist who can stand their own anywhere in the world. Top scientists trained in some of the best universities in the world. So all we need to do is to put investments into the work of such centers, and we can operate like any university anywhere in the world. We have built a sustainable institution, top administrators, top scientists, world-class students. But of course, the major challenge is how to find scholarship funding for students. So when you are like GPA 3.9, you don't go to, if you like, Cornell for your master's. You come to the University of Ghana. The students are smart, they need scholarships. And that is something that we need to solve so that we can attract all the best students into our programs in Ghana and the rest of Africa.
Prof, thank you so much. I think this really, really sheds light on the work that Waki is doing together with you and your team, part of whom I met in Kigali. At this stage, we want you to catch your breath, so we will go for a very short commercial break, and I will hand over to Zonda to take us on a commercial break.
Yes.
Zonda,
So before we go on the break, I was quickly going to ask Prof, the feeling, when people ask you about your work and you are describing it, how do you really feel?
That's a good one. Presbyterian training, we get a sure, solid foundation. I feel humbled.
Yeah.
And I feel humbled, excited, because talking will perhaps attract more investment, so we can take our work forward.
Okay.
So humbled and excited, and I see that as an opportunity to talk more to attract funding.
Oh, great. Great. Okay, so we'll go on a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation.
Ɔdadeɛ Radio. Like us on Facebook at Ɔdadeɛ Radio. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Ɔdadeɛ Radio. You can WhatsApp or call us on 0200 092925.
There's a place in your heart, and I know that it is love.
Say no to single-use plastic bags. They are destroying our environment. Water bodies contribute to most of the rubbish in open spaces and gutters, contributing to floods. Fish and livestock are ingesting plastics, which poses danger to our health. Plastics take ages to decompose and are harmful to the environment. Be responsible. Join eco-conscious citizens in supporting International Plastic Bag Free Day and say no to plastic bags. Use a basket, jute bag, or other biodegradable bags on 3rd July and every other day.
What does the Bible say? And what sort of light does it throw on any life-related issue? John chapter 1 verse 5 states, "And the light shineth in darkness, and darkness comprehended it not." Light for Life is a Christian panel discussion program on all life-related issues and how the Bible helps us in its day-to-day application. Beloved, my name is Reverend Gordon Kwashi, and I invite you to join me and my guests on the Light for Life program on Ɔdadeɛ Radio Online this and every Sunday from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. I trust that as we engage in this Light for Life program, we'll all be able to say to our God, "In thy light we shall see light." God richly bless you as you tune in.
I don't know what I would do without him. Whom shall I fear?
Agriculture plays a crucial role to our country's development with a huge contribution to Ghana's GDP whilst providing for our food needs at the same time.
They should know that Agric is the backbone of every country. Honestly, you began by giving us the percentages, but it used to be 70% that Agric contributes to the economy. It's because of certain lapses that has made a figure decline.
I don't know why they see farming as a bad occupation, because in other developed countries, they take Agric very seriously. They make a lot of money out of farming. They use a lot of modern technology to improve their yield. But over here, we only see it as the use of certain man-made or small implements such as cutlass and hoe, which don't really do much. If you want to go into mass production, which will bring you a lot of money, you use a lot of modern technology that will help improve the yield.
Time to put the spotlight on agriculture value chain in Ghana on Agric Panorama on Ɔdadeɛ Radio. Agric Panorama is a radio program that is aimed at creating a unique platform for all farmers, traders, processors, transporters, wholesalers, and all other actors within the Agric value chain. Agric experts, policymakers, students in agriculture, and other stakeholders as they participate in a panel discussion to unravel all that matters to improve agriculture and agribusiness sector, which is the backbone of Ghana's economy.
It's beneficial to the country in the sense that the non-companies in this country, the products these companies bring out are from Agric, or the raw products are from Agric, which has been processed into finished goods.
With Agric, as I was coming, I wanted to do biology, but my grandfather was the person who told me that, why don't you try agriculture? Because I'm a farmer, and look at where I am. So you can also try agriculture, and then you can see how far you go.
Starting from Saturday, 1st October 2022 at 10 o'clock a.m. GMT, Agric Panorama will be broadcast live from the studios of Ɔdadeɛ Radio Online every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. You can listen and contribute to this program via the Zeno FM radio app or Ɔdadeɛ Radio app from the Google Play Store or App Store. Also watch it live on YouTube or Facebook at Ɔdadeɛ Radio or Ɔdadeɛ Radio Ghana. Ɔdadeɛ Radio, shine the light.
Hi, this is Patricia Obonai, Global Vice President. Keep listening to Ɔdadeɛ Radio.
Ɔdadeɛ Radio. Like us on Facebook at Ɔdadeɛ Radio. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Ɔdadeɛ Radio. You can WhatsApp or call us on 0200 092925.
So welcome back, listeners, and thank you all for tuning in. We encourage you to get yourselves ready, invite other friends and colleagues, because today we have an opportunity to go very up close and personal with Prof. Danquah. I would, at some point, we will just open the lines for all of you to as it were, reach out and have a conversation with Prof. That is what he's doing with us today. Basically having a very good conversation with us and telling us about what he does. Prof, I was listening to you passionately talking about the work in Waki and, what has come out. One of the areas where, it's been challenging for most people is that there's this perception or close to truth that there is a disconnect between research and how research products are utilized. You touched briefly on what the challenges are, but we would like you to tell us from your perspective as a global leader, what architecture do you see that will ensure that research findings get to farmers? And I'm saying this against the background of the questions of listeners and everyday people when they relate findings, great findings like they're talking about, to everyday life, to the price of K&K, to the sufficiency of tomato on the market, and what we hear about tomatoes being imported from Burkina Faso, to the prices of Gary, the the main student companion. So it's just bringing all these things down to the level where people can see how the work that you're doing is transforming and changing things on the ground for us. So that disconnect is something we need to really show that there is something happening, and probably there are other things that we need to do better. So over to you, Prof.
These are tough questions, but I believe we can address all well. I think number one is that we should look at context. You are looking at Africa. I would say for 3 decades, there was total neglect of quality higher education. In fact, those were the days we were doing our first degrees. You could recall, at the time, there were some postgraduate students who took more than 7 years to do a master's in Legon. In some departments, you wouldn't find even faculty. Those were very troubling years. So when we lost most of our scientists to the global world, of course, Africa had a challenge. You see, the whole thing about the connect between research and farmers and markets has to do with the research ecosystem, the seed systems, and then the value chains. You find a scientist in a research institution not using techniques, tools, and methods that allow him to develop the kind of crops that the farmers will take, cannot get products to farmers. You know, farmers are smart. They say farmers, you cannot fool them more than once. Because when they take your variety and the variety does not meet their needs, they'll throw your varieties away. So that means that the work of the scientists must be informed by good science, so that you can develop varieties that can stand their own in the field. If you say this variety should give you, say, 5 tons per hectare if it's maize, if it gets to the farmer, it should give them that. But if come drought, come disease, come pest, the variety is going to give you half a ton or 1 ton per hectare, the farmer will throw it away. So one is the kind of science that we use to develop our varieties. It must be properly informed. Then second is the value chains. If the value chains are not well developed, you cannot, and of course the research, extension, farmer, market linkage, if it's not solid, you see that varieties will not get to where they should get to. So important questions you want to ask here are: the varieties that scientists are developing, are they demand-led? If they are not demand-led, if they have not been developed on the basis of some profiles that are needed by the market wouldn't take the varieties. So that's a fundamental challenge. Then second has to do with the policy environment itself. Assume, for example, you have a research program developing maize varieties for Ghana, and you do your development, and come the planting season, your government imports maize seeds from a different country and subsidize the maize seeds for farmers. Which businessman is going to put investments in the local innovation? No one is going to do that. So one, the policy environment must be right, so that, of course, entrepreneurs will put investments into local research, because, of course, if the research is not properly funded, of course, it wouldn't end up in products that anyone will want to put investments in. But again, you should ask yourself, in what environments are scientists in this country doing research? Once upon a time, I told some visitors to the University of Ghana that, look, you want to see the future of this country, walk across this country or drive across this country, go to Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, go to UDS, go to Cape Coast, come to Legon, look at our schools of agriculture, look at the environments, look at their fields. After that, you can pass a judgment on the future of agriculture in the country. It's dead. There is no hope. So that is one reason why the facilities are so poor, and if the facilities are poor, you cannot, in fact, do investigations that allow you to hit markets. So there are fundamental challenges, and until those are solved, with proper private sector intervention, of course, the private sector are business-oriented. They wouldn't come to you if your products are not smart. They wouldn't come to you. They wouldn't put any investments in your product. So it's a whole complicated, story, and it's all about policy, environment, investments in the value chain, and of course, you know why price of Kenke changes. It has to do with complicating factors. I believe that with your socioeconomics, you understand it better than myself. But of course, there are complicating factors which, when it comes to the prices of commodities on the market, a lot of things go into it. But of course, if research was well funded, you find that products will come out which will hit the markets and hit the industry, because entrepreneurs will come and partner with scientists to get the products to the markets.
I mean, that sets things in perspective, and you're right in terms of the pricing. But last week on our maiden edition, what we tried to do was to, situate in the right context, food self-sufficiency and food nutrition. And we had a very, very good debate. Colleagues joined us, and it was amazing. We just want to build on that, because one of the things that we got from that was that food self-sufficiency was all about the quantity or the volumes that we were able to produce as a country. Now, then food security has all its pillars that we dealt with at that time. So I want to go back to the reflection on the sufficiency. And here, when you share with us the very important milestones in terms of the material that you have, 3 maize hybrid varieties, highest yields in Ghana, 9 to 11 tons per hectare. 3 tomato, hybrid varieties, 40 to 55 to 52 tons. Those are the things that we believe are going to be the game changers for us.
Right. Yeah.
So how we are not able to put them at the disposal of the farmers is one of the things we have to start thinking about. So you're right. I mean, investment is key. And policy environment is also key. So how does someone like Professor Irenchi Danquah influence policy so that these important issues are put on the table and are taken into account? And I say this against two backgrounds. I know that when you won the Africa Food Prize, you called on the Minister for Finance. You called on the Minister for Food and Agriculture. You shared the joy with them. How does this come to play in the bigger picture for us?
Okay. Thank you, Ni. I didn't know you were following me in social media. Good. The West Africa Center for Crop Improvement is a serious institution. In fact, we have been holding value chain workshops, demonstration farms, farmer field schools over the past decade, actually. So we try to do all we need to do. But more important in the area of policy change is the compelling cases that we have been developing. In fact, if you followed the media in Ghana quite recently, Waki led a workshop here in Accra, at which we invited all the key players, key actors in the ag sector, from policy in this country, from scientists, from business entrepreneurs, from consultants. We all met and brainstormed on where we are, where we need to go, trying to see if we could develop a white paper, and we did it. Within a week of our workshop, we had released a communique that was compelling, actually, and the communique was a viral sensation in the country. I heard it was on the corridors of Parliament. The minister read it, and I think that brought some good results. We were there when we were called by the Ministry of Finance. You know, the Ministry of Finance has launched this Obatam Packers project. So they referred us to the Ghana Food Systems Resilience Project, which is going to be a World Bank funded project, and we went to pitch a compelling case to them. Of course, at the very late hour, they agreed to explore opportunities of partnering with us from January to see if they can put about $2 million into the work that we are doing. So I would say that it's not about ignorance, because the government is aware of our capability. I mean, we make a lot of noise because we know we are good. We do what we do very well. It's all over. Our reports are there. And more important is, I spoke about transparency, accountability. There is no single dollar that we have used that we cannot account for. And so we use funds well, and we bring out products that should attract serious investments from the private sector. So we are hoping that things are going to change over time. It's slow, and we thank God, and we should thank God for COVID-19 and climate change and also conflicts. Because all these three are directing us to the need for us to attain local self-sufficiency. And if any African government was smart, they would run to us and discuss how we can explore win-win opportunities to ensure. I was very sad, and hunger, I say, because hunger is not infectious, and people can be cool if they have formal jobs. They don't care, and more important, politicians, I think, don't care enough. I mean, what I've said, and it's an outcome of what I saw quite recently. You recall during the lockdown, there were people who were screaming that they better die of COVID-19 than to stay at home hungry, because they had to go on the streets. Informal jobs, they had to go on the streets and look for money to fend for themselves. They are hungry people. And so I think it's clear that these challenges that the world is facing today is compelling African governments to think out of the box and come out with the necessary investments. We have the Malabo Declaration, which obligates all of us to put 10% of national budgets, of GDP actually, into agriculture. But where do we put funding? What we do is not putting the 10% into agriculture. We use it to import seed, food, etc. And we say we are fixing agriculture. So there has to be mindset change, policy change. There has to be serious investments in the value chains and the seed systems so that we can get commodities to markets. For us at Waki, we have really done all the paperwork. We have the compelling case before government. We have also annual reports, and we continue to speak on a regular basis to policymakers about the need for us to change. And I hope come end of this year, for next year, there are going to be serious changes, and we believe that we are going to use this visibility that we have at the West Africa Center for Crop Improvement to make noise globally. So if I say that if African governments wouldn't fund us, we will come to IFAD and also go to the World Bank for funding. So we are striving to bring on board scaling partners so that we can take what we are doing forward.
Prof, that is really good to know. And when you talked about noise, I was just reflecting, and I was just saying to myself, that must be very melodious noise.
Yeah.
Because you see, what you're saying is worth hearing. And for typical fans of jazz music like us, it's all about instruments, but then you just have to connect with it and to appreciate it. So if you don't listen to it carefully, it's like, oh, this noise. No, but that was melodious noise, I believe.
Yeah.
And you talk about the Malabo Declaration. It's amazing because one of the background things I was doing was just to check where we stand with Malabo as a country. So the AU NEPAD side says what? Ghana scores 3.9 over 10.
That's right.
And it's not on track
in
implementing the Malabo Declaration on Agriculture.
That's right.
In Africa.
Yeah.
That really hurts me because I think at one stage we were doing quite well. But of course, I can understand that there are a few challenges, but that should not stop us from doing what we have committed to do. And I think that we just need to revisit this bit of investment. You talked about it, and it's a main driver. So if we do not put in the investments, we will not get the results that we're looking at. But Prof, I just want to look at, just to take one step, back again. Because you see, back in the days when I was Director of Agriculture in Danquah West, we have the research extension, liaison. We used to call it linkage committees, where we work very closely with, the research institution, CRI, ARI, basically the CSIR, institutions, just to pick up research that they have done that we could use on the field. We even came up with topics for research. But you see, this bit of what I was talking about in terms of the disconnect is comes back into play, because then people researchers are looking at publishing papers and not really solving problems. Again, that is one of the biggest perceptions that we had at the time, and that is one of the things we would love you to talk about. You have proven it though, but it still remains one of the biggest, turning points of the relationship with research. Because I remember there was a National Agricultural Research project that was funded by the World Bank. The National Agricultural Extension Project, they were done just around the same time. That is how the research extension liaison committees were put in place. And they were very helpful, because then at the beginning of every year we had an opportunity to meet and to talk about real farmers' problems, which called for solutions. But come the situation now, it is not the same. And then you even added the market, the farmers and the market linkage, which is really crucial in the chain. So now, how do we revisit a system like this to help us to change the course of agriculture? Right. With the support of with more funding to take agriculture where it really needs to be.
Very good. Thanks, Nee. In fact, the first thing I would like to say is that the Ministry of Food and Agriculture alone cannot drive Ghana towards food and nutrition security. And perhaps Ghana needs a new kind of institution to superintend over, if you like, agricultural development in the country. And I have advocated for an inter-ministerial committee directly under the office of either the Vice President or the President, to ensure that we put in place the structures that ensure that we are working towards food and nutrition security, because of course agriculture involves a number of ministries. But yes, Nee, what you said is right. And I recall during the time of the National Agricultural Research Program, I was quite active on that project. I was part of the maize commodity group. But you see, that was a short-term funded project. And that is how we have approached our agricultural development over the years. A small grant from the World Bank, you undertake a project, and when the project dies, there's no sustainability plan to take the project forward. But I would say that the NAP perhaps was one of the most successful projects ever undertaken. Of course, there were challenges at the time, and we thought that when the successor project started, that is the AXIP, started, there was going to be some continuity, but it didn't happen, and then a new project was brought on board, the West Africa Agricultural Productivity Project, which had inherent in it some flaws, which never allowed us to, if you like, achieve expectations, of course, because one is, there is no, if you like, collaboration between the research institutions and the universities. And for me, that is a serious challenge. How could Ghana go for a huge loan from the World Bank, put the universities aside, and engage only the research institutions to drive R&D for development? The university has solid critical mass of scientists who should be integrated in the national research agenda. But this has not been the case. You remember over 3 years ago, maybe even 4 years, the National Research and Innovation Fund bill was approved by Parliament. And I believe, of course, the President assented the bill. And so this is assented and for implementation. But ask me, where is the bill? Where is the fund? Not even $1 in that fund. If scientists, and why should we expect the UK or the US to give scientists in Africa significant grants to make impact in Africa? They won't. So the major challenge is the entire research environment. There are silos of projects which do not allow us to collaborate effectively and efficiently. So you find sometimes duplication of projects, small projects which are not impactful and are not sustainable. But assuming, and that long ago I advised the government to put in place a Ghana Grand Challenges Fund under the Office of the President, ensuring that scientists, proper scientists, have access to the funds they need to innovate and turn their innovations into ideas into innovations so that they can impact agriculture. But so the challenge and need, the challenge is not a small one, it's gargantuan. It's a gargantuan challenge. And with that kind of challenge, always looking for an external donor. And I tell you, some donors give you a grant and you look at what you have to go through within a year. Sometimes they ask you to report every 2 weeks. Ludicrous. I mean, we have to really move forward as a country, and I wish that we would change the way we do things. And it calls for policy, it calls for implementation of some of the policies that we have already, some bills from Parliament that we have to roll out, put in place so that this country can run forward. So that is the major problem. I would restructure the whole research ecosystem and ensure that along commodity groups there is collaboration for impact.
Prof, enormous thanks again, and I think you just nailed it. And I feel that you have really laid out what will be important. You raised one point, and which I think was one of the issues that came up in our first edition of this important program, and that had to do with the short-term funding from donor agencies. But I argue that donor agencies don't tell Ghana what to do. Ghana knows what it wants to do, and it wants support, in addition to what it will bring to the table to make this happen. And again, I say this from the perspective of the institution that I work for. IFAD gives money to governments, or lends money, let me put it that way, to government, and to complement government's effort. So the projects, the programs, and everything is government driven. It's demanded, it's what the government wants, that is done. And of course, there are areas that you want government to relook at. But if you don't want to do something, why do you even put resources in it? You see, because it comes back, one of an evaluation that we did recently showed that government ownership of the projects was so low. And I asked myself, but what are we talking about? How can you have a project and you not own it? So, Bobo, you're right. I think it's time that we take these small resources as additional top-ups to support us in the bigger picture of what we're doing, to sustain what we're doing with resources, as we have committed to do, like in the Malibu's case, and then for governments to own it. As a country, let's own these things because they are our own. We put them in place. And until we're able to do that, we're going to have these kind of challenges over and over and over again. Anyway, not to put you on the spot anymore. That is fine. Last month, exactly 7th of September, Kigali, Rwanda. You were awarded the 2022 Africa Food Prize. I think you're the first Ghanaian to win that. How do you feel about
that? Well, that's an interesting personal question. Yeah, you were in Kigali and you saw it all. You saw me standing on the days with Excellency Olusegun Obasanjo and his committee, and you heard all that President Obasanjo said. About the work that we have done at WACI. And you saw President Paul Kagame, President Managua of Zimbabwe, the President of Niger, the Vice President of Tanzania, the former Prime Minister of Ethiopia. Oh my God. You saw them walking towards me and my feet were trembling. And Paul Kagame comes to stand by my side and is speaking to me, and I'm asking, is that Eric Danquah? Oh my God, it was humbling. For me, it was reflections. And I said to myself, the prize money is nothing. $100,000 is going to go into charity, to unearth talent, to develop talent for this country. That is what I'm doing with the GCHR prize money. I mean, what is all this if it is not integrated to the future? Because what we are doing today, if it does not become better tomorrow, we would have failed. And so what I'm ensuring is that there is sustainability. Yeah. So for me, I think this award means nothing to me if it does not attract significant funding into the center for sustaining what we have started. We should get to the level that allow us to compete with the best in the world. In fact, I want to see WACI as the #1 institution for plant breeding education in the world, and we can become. Because I believe you are in Rome and you see what you are through Ɔdadeɛ. I mean, yesterday I heard the Blue guys talking on radio. I mean, Accra Academy, what they have done. Ghana has super talent. Ghana has super talent that we are not harnessing through investments in people. We are not growing our people. And I want to see us putting more funding into, if you like, research institutions, into universities to grow our people. You know what the Chinese say? If you want to develop a nation for 100 years, you grow your people, not trees or seed. So I want to see this award attracting significant investments into the center so that we can take what we are doing forward. I'll be happy, because I want to be happy when I leave, that center continues to become #1 in the country, in Africa, and perhaps in the fullness of time, the entire wild world. Because we can. We have superstars in the center, people who in their own rights were the best in their graduate programs all over the world, and we have assembled them into a center which can stand its own anywhere in the world. It's all about the recognition and the investments to take the work forward. So I believe that the current visibility that I am having, which is good, you had the invitation to Washington to speak at the State of the Africa function in DC. I mean, so all that visibility, I hope, will bring some attractions to the center in future.
Prof, we're just about winding down, but before we do that, I mean, having said all that you've said, and we want to match this against our objectives that we've set for this program. what advice will you give to present generation of PRESEC students?
Wow. Nia, I liked your introduction. For Christian training, we get a sure, solid foundation to take our places in the future of our country and church. For me, that means the world to me. To have the current generation, I call them the current generation, not the next generation. They are the current leaders. I tell them it's all about character, attitude, and reliability, and we have to ensure that we do not deviate from the training that we have in this great school, perhaps one of the greatest schools on earth, high schools on earth for training, if you like, students pre-university. There's one thing I would like them to know, that we need very smart students in the agricultural sciences for the future development of our agriculture. Because for me, that is the most important challenge that we have to address for socioeconomic development. And if you were a very smart student, like the top guy in your class, and you thought about going to the medical school, I think that you'll be too challenged that people will be hungry and die before you can save them. So I want those who know they are smart to come into the plant sciences, because, you know, agriculture has now become a battle of the sciences. And we need to crack our brains to ensure that we use good sciences to develop resilient, productive, and nutritious crops. In fact, now public health scientists are working with agriculturists, because, of course, it's a public health issue. We can fortify all the crops so that when you, you don't have to go and disperse vitamin C in water and drink water. We can get almost everything into, if you like, food crops, so that people can lead healthy life. This obesity, malnutrition, all of them can be addressed through agriculture, so that life-threatening diseases don't take you to the hospital too early. So I'm challenging the PRESEC young guys. They shouldn't be too crazy about medical school, civil engineering. Of course, if that is the place you want to go, go. But if you find the opportunity to also come into agriculture, be overly excited, because you could be more important than the medical doctor, because the medical doctors themselves today, when they close from work, they are going to their farms. It's all about farming. It's all about food. Almost everyone is going into agriculture. Agriculture is going to be the next biggest thing in the world. Tuaferi told me, and I got into agriculture, and I'm telling them, by 2030, 2050, agribusiness is going to be in the tune of close to $150 billion. I think you know the numbers better. Are we not going to be prepared to be the next billionaires in the world through African agriculture? Of course, because I know that African governments are going to wake up. They are going to put investments in agriculture tomorrow, because that's our only choice, our only way to prosperity. And so come that time, where will be the smart guys to win? Because wins in agriculture will be wins forever, because food is what people are going to take forever. So let's fix our foods. In Luminituo with the Bimos Lumen.
So I just want to ask you a few questions so that we can...
So that before you do that, because I was going to hand over to you in a second, but let me just... Prof, and I think you nailed two very important things. The importance of the agricultural sector, and how collaborating with others will make our life much easier, and especially when you talk about the public health sector. I recall, things like the fortified maize and how we even we bred the maize with high in vitamin A, etc.
That's right.
So you're right. I mean, everybody eats food, and that is the key. You have to eat. Therefore, if that is healthy, you're on the road to good health. And I really love it when you put it in perspective that agriculture or the agribusiness is going to be the next biggest thing in the coming years. It is true. More than $1.5 billion of is there for the taking. It's up to us to step in that space and make it count. Before Zonda, I'll hand over to you for your questions, and then we'll have a break. Then hopefully, I think we can open the floor for our listeners and our audience to get up close and personal with Professor Urenchi. Zonda, over to you.
Oh, okay. So thank you. So we would like at this point to invite questions and comments from our listeners, and you can do this through our WhatsApp and SMS lines. Our WhatsApp line is 02000 92 92 5. Our studio phone number is 030-255-1014. Feel free to send your comments, questions, so that Prof can, answer them for you. We're about getting to the tail end of our program, so we are opening our lines now for you to ask your questions. So let's go on this commercial break, and when we come back, I'll put my questions to Prof.
Ɔdadeɛ Radio. Like us on Facebook at Ɔdadeɛ Radio. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Ɔdadeɛ Radio. You can WhatsApp or call us on 0200 092925.
The Education Standpoint is a radio program only on Ɔdadeɛ Radio. The program intends to bring together all stakeholders in the education spectrum of the Presbyterian Boys Secondary School to a live studio discussion on all the topical issues in education and help put to proper perspective the views from standpoint of all stakeholders. The Education Standpoint will also help guide the school and create a better understanding for administration, students, teachers, parents, the church, and the alumni. Tune in to Education Standpoint exclusively on Ɔdadeɛ Radio online Thursdays 2 to 4 p.m. and a repeat broadcast on Saturdays at 9 a.m. I am Reverend Emmanuel Ambrose Asamoah, an Ɔdadeɛ former teacher, former students, educationists, counselor, and will be your host on the Education Standpoint. Please do make a date with me.
Did you know that 90% of people with autoimmune diseases will be misdiagnosed or spend years before a diagnosis is made? Precious time that could lead to organ damage. Autoimmune diseases occur when the immune system starts to attack healthy organs and cells in the body till they are destroyed. These conditions are more severe and are increasingly seen in people of African ancestry. The Rheumatology Initiative TRI is an NGO leading with education, advocacy, and research in autoimmune diseases. TRI ensures patients have the right peer support with a support group of over 200 people diagnosed with autoimmune conditions. The Rheumatology Initiative provides emergency medication for needy patients and teaches them life skills to ensure some financial stability. TRI reaches patients, health practitioners, and the general public through various educational interventions to enable prompt diagnosis and treatment for improved outcomes. How can you support our work at the Rheumatology Initiative? Please donate to our MTN Momo 024-192-9775. Account name is the Rheumatology Initiative. To volunteer, please send an email to volunteer@tryghana.org. That's TRIGhana.org. Visit our website tryghana.org to reach us, and on social media look for our handles at TryGhana.
You are listening to the live streaming of Ɔdadeɛ Radio. May I please have your attention for this announcement? Are you an Ɔdadeɛ? Are you looking for that opportunity here on Ɔdadeɛ Radio to reach out the many Ɔdadeɛs out there? Let your schoolmates and your targeted clients know of your products and services. Here on Ɔdadeɛ Radio, we shine the light on all that Ɔdadeɛs are involved in across the globe. Come and support us and let's reach out to all Ɔdadeɛs through our medium to know your business and services. To all Ɔdadeɛs and other stakeholders who wish to offer their support to Ɔdadeɛ Radio should please call or WhatsApp us on 0200 29295 or call us on 030 255 1014. You can also reach us on our social media platforms at Ɔdadeɛ Radio on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Send us an email at odadeeradio@gmail.com or visit our studio at the Presec Alumni and Mentorship Center AMC on the Presec Campus, Legon, Accra. Ɔdadeɛ Radio, shine the light. Thank you for your attention, and please stay glued to Ɔdadeɛ Radio.
Hi, my name is Danquah, Kwesi Che Danquah, and whenever I'm in Presec Legon, I listen to Ɔdadeɛ Radio, shine the light.
Ɔdadeɛ Radio. Like us on Facebook at Ɔdadeɛ Radio. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Ɔdadeɛ Radio. You can WhatsApp or call us on 0200 092925.
All right, so welcome back. I'm just going to ask Prof just a few questions before we get back to you. And the first question I would really like to ask Prof, because he touched on it briefly, is about how to attract investment and support for WACI, or whatever investment that will come into Agric research. Why is it that we are not getting a lot of our business folks and people who are wealthy in the country to put money behind such brilliant, research institutions? That's my first question.
Thanks, Johnny. I think it may be difficult to answer that question satisfactorily without doing the necessary study. But I would want to believe that a number of them are doing what they can. But perhaps a large number of them are not aware of what is happening. Yeah, so there has to be more of advocacy, and we are trying to do more of those. I'm aware that a number of organizations, when they hear about good interventions, try to see what they can do. And of course, over the past 3 decades, we have been quite successful with some of the, if you like, private sector. What they want to see is convincing concept notes proposals, and a few banks have come to our support at one point or the other. I recall recently, not too recent though, about a couple of years ago, there was a breakfast meeting at the level of the presidency where the top 100 companies in the country were invited to the breakfast meeting and all advised to put funding into areas that will help Ghana to meet the sustainable development goals. And that was from the president of Ghana to the top 100. Immediately after that meeting, I went to Talo Oil, and then my good friend Kwekwa Wetri was the CEO of Talo. He listened to my story and he immediately said, look, Prof, this is a very smart idea and I am fully in support of it. And I'm recommending it to my committee, but it's the committee that has to decide. So we worked with the committee and all the committee could do was to give a very small grant. It was very, very small. So I believe the goodwill is there, but they have to be convinced, and because of the competing needs for their funds, perhaps they are not encouraged to put money into agriculture. But now that the situation has become very tough and everyone knows that we have to attain local food self-sufficiency, perhaps it's going to change. People think that we can just import food from abroad, but look at the food import bill. Now, I mean, we're told quite recently. I was surprised it was the Russians who told us that our food import bill for last year was about $2.7 billion.
Wow.
Look at that, it's crazy. Why can't we put $100 million into an Agric fund tomorrow? I don't understand why. And why can't we get, of course, perhaps I'm going to use this current dispensation to see how I can get to the doorsteps of the Ghanaian billionaires. I believe billionaires, maybe billionaires in cities and multi-millionaires. We are going to get to all of them and perhaps put the challenge forward. The video of the gentleman who almost stripped naked and screamed, I better die of COVID-19 than hunger. My wife and children are there with no food, still plays in my mind, and I feel troubled. And I think these are the messages that we need to get to those who can support. That look, we know hunger is not infectious, so not many people care. But let's be more caring than we have been, because we need to erase the inequalities in our country, so everyone can at least afford 3 decent meals. Food security.
But Prof, let me put myself in this. I'm not a millionaire, and I pray to God that He might open the floodgates for me someday. But assuming I was one, and I wanted to put my money in a project like yours, for me as a company, and when I look at my tax obligations and what, are there any things in our policy that allows me to put so much money and get relief somewhere that would encourage me, oh, let me put my money in there? Because I think that could be part of the problem.
Yeah, you're right. In fact, this is something that perhaps we have to work at, and it has to, assuming we had this inter-ministerial committee overseeing R&D for development of agriculture, you can easily pitch to them. But perhaps we have to do a concept note to the, the economic, what's the name? Economic team?
Management team.
Yeah, exactly. So the economic management team. I think we are going to seek audience with them very soon, and then perhaps put something forward, because of course we have done a compelling case for investments in agriculture, and we are going to pitch that to them, and then try to put arguments forward why we need to do ABCD and how we can free the private sector so that they can willingly put funding into agriculture. I think that there has to be some tax release for them so they can also support agriculture.
Yeah, because you touched on advocacy. And so that's one of the areas the second question I was going to ask you, advocacy. So advocating the idea of what you had said, ministerial committee pushing government to be able to set up these things where you can meet and regularly have these discussions and ideas. But advocacy, for instance, we look at our students, brilliant students, who are all thinking, oh, I must go and do medicine, I must do something in mechanical engineering. Why not agriculture? Is it not the situation where, as you are saying, you need to start mentoring, you need to start informing, educating these young ones about these opportunities, so that at this stage, when they are still in pre-sec year, they know why the career option is to go into agriculture, because they can do A, B, C, D. Shouldn't your institution start talking to them, having symposiums and these kind of opportunities, speaking to these students, so that they can pick this up at this early stage?
Yeah, but I think this is something we are doing already, but of course we have to do more. The University of Ghana normally goes on outreach programs almost every year before students complete the application forms. But I think the School of Agriculture has been the lead, if you like, unit of the university that does it for agriculture. And we are also going to do more of it, because fortunately I've been able to put together a foundation, a Danquah Foundation, which is going to look at this specially. So we are going to work with especially the International Association of Agric Students. They also do some of it. So we are going to see how we can fund the International Association of Agric Students to do more of advocacy in the high schools.
Okay.
So it's something that I believe we can do, and we are going to do more.
We plan on starting an Agric club here soon, and I'm sure when we do that, we'll invite you so that you can have these kind of discussions with them as well. So listeners, our lines are open. We are expecting your messages on our WhatsApp number 02000 92 92 5. Our studio lines are 0302 551014. Over to you, Ni. Hello, Ni. So you can continue.
Right. Yeah. In fact, Prof, I have one question thrown at me.
Yeah.
Hello. Do we still have Ni? Yeah. Okay. So I think that we're having a little challenge, but we have people who have started sending a few questions, and let me just direct some of them, asking me where they can send their questions to.
Zonda, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Apologies, yeah, my internet trip briefly. Right. Prof, can you hear me? Zonda, whilst you're looking at where how to sort out the issues of who is asking what question. Prof, I have one question for you, and I think it comes from the fact that you said something about zero hunger. So the question was, or is, do you think zero hunger is achievable within the 2030 time frame set?
Neither's a tough question. Even before COVID-19 and the Russian-Ukraine war, Ghana was not on track. And I don't know of any country in Africa which was truly on track, in sub-Saharan Africa, which was truly on track to meet zero hunger. But it's not something that is not unattainable. It is. For example, look at the maize varieties that we have, which yield 9 to 11 tons per hectare. Even if farmers in Tamale used our varieties, we have proven the concept, they would get a minimum of 6 tons per hectare. So let's say if average yields of maize in this country were 6 tons per hectare, it would mean that we would get more than 3 times the volumes of production that we have in this country. That alone will be working this country towards maize self-sufficiency. So it's all about serious investments in the food value chains. And if we had these investments, even with the products that we have today, we can work towards that. And mind you, 2030 is how many years from now? 8 years from now? 8 years is quite a long time. I believe that we can. I believe we can, but it will mean a different approach, a business unusual, huge investments into R&D and value chains, ensuring that the environment is right. Look at rice, the story of rice. Our farmers get only about 2.8 tons per hectare with the varieties they currently use. We can change those varieties overnight because there are some which have to be, if you like, marketed at the Crop Research Institute. If we could get those onto the market, they can give you minimum 4 tons per hectare.
Wow.
We can quickly double our rice production in this country. So it's a question of choice. Do we want to do it? If it's yes, we can do it. Do we want to do it? It's no, because they are prioritizing policies that have no implications for investments in the value chains locally. So I think for me it's government policy, and for me it's the political will. If there was the political will, we can attain it, but without the political will, we won't attain it. So I think the government must be smart enough to see that no, we have to fix food insecurity. And if they choose that path, I believe that we have what it takes to fix it within 8 years. Is quite a long time. We can do it.
Okay, so Ni, can I go out with my questions now?
Go ahead.
Yes.
Zanda, go ahead.
Okay. So I have Amate from the 1990 year group, and he's currently a commercial farmer and has planted 500 acres of maize, and he's looking up to scale up in the next season. Now, these are his questions. He said, which region will these seeds that you are talking about guarantee these high yields?
Good.
There are follow-up questions.
Okay.
But I'll
let me take
take it one at a time, yes.
Good. We did the multi-locational trials in the coastal region, the transitional zone, and then the Guinea Savannah zone.
What is transitional zone?
So, okay, if you went to the Brown Hafu area, that whole area, we can guarantee minimum 9 tons per hectare of those maize varieties.
Okay.
If you went to Tamale, you are getting 6 tons per hectare because of the harsh environment. In the coastal area, you are getting 9 tons per hectare.
Wow.
Yes. So we have tried it in those. We haven't done it in the forest zones, but we believe that it will not be too low there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. He's also asking, are these seeds resistant to the armyworms, the fall armyworms?
Yeah, the fall armyworm is what we are currently working on. We are trying to unravel the sciences to crack the fall armyworm problem. We haven't gotten there yet, and so these are not resistant to the fall armyworm. So we have to find ways. But the fall armyworm is something we can do. But the point is that Africa can solve the fall armyworm problem overnight. We have to go with technology. We have to change. We have to go with biotechnology. Because if you accept GMO maize tomorrow, you don't have fall armyworm problem. So it's I normally say it's a common sense problem. You want the fall armyworm? Yes, keep your local maize. You don't want it? No, you don't want it? Go for biotechnology, BT maize.
Okay.
You solve the fall armyworm. That's how it's been solved in North America. So why don't we go with technology?
Of course, when you do this, you know that you are waking the pro and the how they call it? No, they are not the pro. Those are against.
Well, but they don't have good arguments for. I mean, it's lack of understanding of the issues. And anytime we have engaged them properly, I went to speak to the Council of State on GMOs, and all of them were nodding their heads. And we have done studies with farmers, and they want the seed. And I think we have to go for it. We have to go for it.
Okay. All right. He says, which type of fertilizer is recommended and what type of fertilizer application is required? This is a farmer also. He's asking direct questions.
Well, I think it's a normal MPK, but I cannot give him the recommended rates from this meeting. But what I will do is that we have, please, Niyama Amate or...
Yes.
Homo Niyama Amate.
Amate.
Yeah, what I will do is I will link you up with the private sector partner we are working with. He is selling the seed certified seed, and it's important. He's in Koforidua, called the Amos Azinu Legacy Crop Improvement Center. Those maize varieties are good, and I think it's the Legonebro that we have, and he'll love it.
Okay, so that was his next question. Where can he purchase the seed?
Yeah, so I will give him the contact.
Okay.
We'll give him
we'll put it out there. He said, what's the duration of the seed?
Oh, he's asking me questions.
Yeah, he has more questions.
Well, they are medium to early maturing varieties.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And he said his final question is, when will we produce seeds with similar yields that will not require or depend on fertilization?
Very good. I think that is the most important question I've heard today. Mr. Mate, is all about science, technology, and innovation. Currently, we are using new sciences. And you see, the subject we learned as genetics 30 years ago has changed. Elsewhere, we are using modern sciences to develop new varieties, and which are productive, nutritious, resilient. And it's this resilience that we are building into the crops. So, for example, crops which require only little fertilizer, this research is ongoing globally. And so it's the necessary way forward. Looking at climate change and the deterioration of our soils, we need to develop crops that can withstand the harsh environments with little fertilizer. I wouldn't say no fertilizer anyway, because of course it's not possible to starve the plant of nutrition and the nutrients. So I think it's important that we understand that, look, there are sciences looking for crops. Of course, there is some key research ongoing elsewhere where we want to develop cereals which are like legumes. That means cereals that can fix their own nitrogen. But that is blue sky research. In the fullness of time, perhaps there are going to be breakthroughs. Certain crops with certain associations with certain microorganisms can generate their own needs, so they don't require this artificial fertilizer. So it's a question of time, but of course, Mr. Mate, come to Waki, come and do your social corporate responsibility contribution. Let us do the research that you need so that we get the products that you want. I want the private community to understand that if they don't fund research, if we don't fund research, we are unlikely to give them the products that they will need tomorrow. So that is important.
Well, thank you, Amate, for your question. That was excellent.
Yeah.
You touched on, policy and the desire of, or the will of policy makers to really push out some of these things. I was just going to ask you, why you are not working directly with farmer-based organizations and using a lot of radio stations now who are focused on agriculture to push out that, because I did some work with your institution many years ago, and there we work with farmer-based organizations. Why are you not going that direction?
Oh, we are. Farm Radio, for example, have come to be. They're on the waiting list for an interview. We are talking to them. They are going to come soon. We do want to work with the entire value chain. So we are open for conversations, and oftentimes we are unable to do all because we are a small organization. We want to scale up. And let me say that we have launched a unit at Waki named the Kofi Annan Enterprise Hub for Agricultural Innovation. And through that, we are doing a lot of outreach. And I believe that very soon you see that we are truly all-round ag innovation and entrepreneurship institution. So we are looking at all those.
Okay. So, Nia, I'm going to ask you this question because once upon a time you were a district, you were in charge of a district and basically, headed government policy in the district. Now, so how would Waki, for example, be able to work with districts that wouldn't have to go through main government policy and have direct access to farmer-based organizations?
Okay, tricky question. The district assembly. Okay, so the district offices are under the district assembly. and that is as part of their planning. That is where they can involve, WACI. And now, once you establish that working relationship, then there are a lot of things that will follow. So, for instance, WACI wants to do an on-field trial. I mean, that's great partnership already established. So, these are partnerships that, you forge not through government, not through the district assembly, but you can use personal, contacts and, of course, knowledge of what WACI does, and you go in there and finding out and saying, look, this is where we are. We can partner you in doing A, B, C, D. So by doing, forging those partnerships, it's possible to work with WACI and to take things to the next dimension.
So there's a possibility for them to directly work with some of these.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay. If I was in a district and I hear this program, I'm going straight to WACI. Oh no, straight. I'm telling you, Zonda, you know me already. I go where we can get the best for the district.
That's right.
So I will reach out. I will touch base. We will look at what is possible. We will look at the parameters.
Great.
And I'll say that in the past, some of it, have been like challenging, because then people, those you're working with, expect that you put some resources into what they are doing, etc. And when you're constrained. But that is another issue.
Yeah,
Prof,
but we don't have the likes of you anymore. Where somebody like me in the private sector can walk into your office and say, look, I have a mouthpiece for you to speak, so come to me, where you do your best and invite me, and you will come and speak on my station and speak to farmers. We don't have that kind of thing anymore. I don't know whether they are afraid of us or not. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
I was worried I lost you.
When you were talking, I was smiling actually. Yeah. Oh dear. Prof, 2 questions. Zonda, do you have a few questions?
Yes, I have a few questions, but you go ahead with yours first.
Right, okay. Prof, 2 quick questions. One, the mention of GMO kind of, I think, triggered somebody's, antennas, and it was like, okay, so what you're doing, the kind of research that WACI is doing, is it linked to, biotechnology and GMOs? And then the second one, is a held view that research erodes the genetic material in the land races. How are we preserving our land races? Over to you, Prof.
Right, thanks. The maize varieties that we have today and the tomato varieties that we have are not GMOs. They have been developed using the conventional methods of plant breeding. So they are not GMOs. But we are a research institution, in fact, a world-class research institution. And we have to use good science to develop new crops. And so we cannot run away from entering into fields that allow us to innovate and develop new crops effectively and efficiently. So we are going to use smarter methods to improve crops. There is a very advanced method now which is allowing simple changes in what makes a plant what it is. In biology, we call it the genome. Simple changes, changes that can normally happen in the field. So it's like you haven't done anything at all to the plant. But some people in Europe are also calling it a GMO. I mean, those developments, innovations should not be GMOs. The technique is called genome editing. So it is doing simple changes in the individual, the same as what is happening with using conventional technologies to develop crops. And you see, the technologies that we are using to develop better crops using good sciences today are highly regulated, even more than the conventional techniques. Because you see, you go to find some 2 plants and you do crosses, and you mix all the material from the 2 different organisms. But with these advances, you are just pinpointing, the tip of a pin is what you are putting in this, and which is the same as you find in any plant anyway. So you are not doing any miraculous changes. You are doing something. You see, when I was in grad school, the best definition of plant breeding, the definition of plant breeding that I loved was man-directed evolution of crop plants. You see, so we are gifted, we are talented, we are smart, and we should direct the changes that give us our needs, that supply us our needs. So it's man-directed, and we have the wisdom. Whatever we can do, provided it follows regulation, should be accepted. So we should direct, and we should use common sense to develop new crops. Look, today Ghana has approved the BT cowpea. The Maruka cowpea. Yeah. Ghana has approved it. You know what some farmers get when their cowpea plants are attacked by the Maruka pest? They get about 0.5 tons per hectare of cowpea yield. It is ridiculous. When you use the BT cowpea, you get over 2.5 tons per hectare.
Wow.
And the point is that those who use the local cowpea, they can spray about 8 times. Toxic material you are taking into your mouth. With the BT, 1 or 2 sprays, you are gone. So it's a common sense issue. There was one time I interviewed farmers in the Lansing area in Michigan. I interviewed a lot of farmers at the time that they had started growing GMOs. They told me, look, now we have a lot of time to stay at home. We are not spraying too much toxic material onto our plants, and the crops are good, giving us good crops in the field. So it's a common sense issue. In Brazil, had it not been the soybean revolution, Brazil would still have been a poor country. But they used science and technology, went for GMO soybean, and now Brazil is an economic power when it comes to agriculture. And Ghana and Africa, we are thinking about Europe and saying that perhaps trade might not be boosted, and so let's take our time. We should ask ourselves, are we Europe? Are we Europe? We are not Europe. Let me tell you, Europe invested some serious funding in plant breeding between 2000 and 2015. The funding in the European Union in plant breeding in good science for productive, resilient, and nutritious crops, investments were huge. And if you look at 15 years of investments in Europe, you find the dividends. GDP growth, productive crops, jobs for the people, great, and almost close to zero hunger, improvement of livelihood, communities, societies, nations. But look at Africa. You are hungry. You are importing Ghana, you are importing $2.7 billion of food. And you say you didn't go for smart crops? You are not Europe, you are hungry. And these are good things. People are eating it everywhere. The arguments against technology do not make sense. And all of those who have come forward, when they have encountered people who let me tell you a story, Nee. There was some time I heard someone who read sociology in Legon on radio. And this was a famous guy in this country of blessed memory. He was saying GMOs never, he will bet his last coin, it's nothing that anyone should go for. And this guy was my friend. I heard him and I called him on phone. Hey, what did you say? Do you understand what you are saying? He said, let me code switch. Well,
that's serious.
Look at that. That's serious.
Yes.
So people who have no understanding of the subject misinforming the population. There was a time we used to run workshops for Parliament, and some of them were my former homos in Presec. I mean, they listen to us and they say, oh, okay, so this is good, eh? I mean, we spoke to the Council of State. Everyone who understands it goes for it.
Yeah.
People don't understand the issues. There was someone who took to lambasting me on Facebook, and we engaged him, and he didn't even understand what he was doing. So many illiterate people who have no idea what they are talking about, misinforming people. It must stop. And if I were a government, I'll put money into institutions like WACI to do advocacy for the country.
Yeah.
And if we did the advocacy, you see that everyone will get on board technology. We have to educate the people. And the universities must be well resourced to do this education.
Okay, so then it brings me to the question that Clifford from Accra was asking. He was asking what the role of government is in playing in WACI to improve the agri sector. What is the role? It's a big question.
Well, I would say that the role of government.
Yeah.
You mean any government?
No. Well, the role of any government.
Any government. Well, of course, WACI is a unit in a public university. And so the government should be responsible for ensuring that we can recruit and retain top scientists at WACI. That's the sine qua non. I mean, we need that. One, we need funding for research. We need facilities, labs, fields, great fields. And of course, we need endowments. You know, Harvard University, they say their annual budget is funded 40% from endowments. So we need endowments to sustainably fund our program, so that when I identify a student who is brilliant, I can say, you are not going abroad, I'm giving you a fellowship, you are staying at WACI. So we need endowments. So we can.
And it's not happening.
It's not happening,
yes,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of things that governments are not doing, so you can see that we cannot compete. But of course, even given the challenges, we've been able to get to where we are now.
Yeah. Okay. So a quick recommendation from Edifico. He's saying that Senior Bobo is giving the nickname that he spelled with about 30 letters. Bobo. He said, you are a true Ɔdadeɛ, and I've always made us proud on many foreign platforms, and he salutes you. He says he remembers you in the thick of Jama, Kwanzaa House Jama, during Presec inter-house competitions. Are you still a Jama guy? He is, so I've been meeting him at some place that he comes, and he's always dancing. Yes. There's a message from Alex Daku, a.k.a. Bogonato of 79-year group. I don't know that. Do you know him?
A.k.a.
Bogonato.
Bogonato. No,
yes.
I don't know that.
This is from the Alex Daku. I don't know, or I'm not pronouncing the name.
Alex Daku, yeah, Bogonato.
Okay. Okay. He said he lives in Canada, and I know farming. Yes.
Yeah.
And he says farming here is typically family business that has been passed on from many generations. They do well because of comprehensive tax policies to help farmers, and also incentives to make it attractive and sustainable. What are we doing to encourage farming using incentives through our tax policies?
I think maybe Neil would help with this question.
Neil? Senior Bobo says he's not a government official.
Amazingly, I'm not a government official, but Bobo, you said it right. It comes down to investment, and here we are a situation where we're always or we are at a point where we virtually do not have the resources to invest. Look at our commitment to the Malabo Declaration. I mean, it speaks for itself. Look at the food import bill. It speaks for itself. What is our tax regime? How much are we raking in to support growth of the various sectors? It speaks for itself. It comes down to who is responsible for what, and their commitment towards the bigger commitments that we have made. So That is what I would say. If I was Minister for Finance, I would know where I'm going to put my money. You know, it's going to be tough. There's no doubt about that. But you as the purse holder must also push. If I was in the presidency and I was advising the president on agriculture, I'll know which nails to knock down or which chords to strike. So the individual's approach is also very, very important, and what their commitment to growing agriculture and moving it. And Boganato's question is, or his comments and his questions are very valid. And I think it's one of the things that we need to put back on the table. I mean, after all is said and done, I mean, whoever is in charge of the country, are we paying lip service to agriculture? Or we really want to see agriculture grow in the dimensions that we want it? We want to yield a lot, get a lot more out of agriculture than we are doing at this moment.
All right, so Nee, I want you to quickly summarize the program because we are running out of time, and so that we can just wind down.
Very well, thank you so much. I think that come to a summary. I would just focus on a couple of things. Like I said, this was getting up close and personal with Ɔdadeɛ, Professor Yurenchi, and it's more of learning from him and being inspired by him, so that the work that he does or he has done over time, how that is impacting all of us as a country. But then also for people to know that agriculture is not only about production. You can also go into research. That is a huge part of the value chain that Prof was talking about. And so for me, those are the key things. But before I wrap up, Prof, on the eve of the 7th of September, you tweeted and you said, I mean, that was when you were awarded the prize. I'm humbled and dedicate this award to the giants on whose shoulders I have stood all these years. Do you have any final words or recognition for any of these giants and even your friends?
Wow. Thank you. Normally you run into forgetting some people, and so you are quite careful, but of course I will speak to some giants. But before I do that, I want to salute the 1977 year group. In fact, I think we have one of the coolest WhatsApp platforms. The
WhatsApp platform?
Yeah, the WhatsApp platform. The camaraderie on the platform, oh my God. I mean, you wake up and you want to see what is happening. So I salute my classmates, beloved friends. A few have departed. May their souls rest in perfect peace. My president, Julius Kumi, I salute you. And everyone, they've been quite instrumental in the joy that we have every day for good life. So having recognized my classmates, let me talk about my teachers. Of course, Etua Aferi, I salute for suggesting that agriculture was going to be great. May his soul rest in perfect peace, because he's made a giant out of me. I thank him very, very much. When we were in Presec, we were taught by some of the best teachers on earth. Actually, the teachers were just great. I mean, Mr. Clay, who interviewed me, you met him in the geography class, and you said, "Oh wow, this is a scholar." I mean, Mrs. Jackson. These were giants in our lives. So right from, even you can go to primary school. I mean, we've been fortunate with great teachers. And when I went to do my studies abroad, I met, oh my God, when I mention their names in the global arena, people understand what I mean, because they were the creme de la creme in the UK teaching plant breeding. And you saw them walk to you, teach you, and you say you want to be like them. So that was what we envisioned when we thought about the WACI, that will put in place a center that can stand its own anywhere in the world. And I salute all of my professors abroad who have made me who I am. The partner at Cornell University, with whom we established WACI, he's great. He's still a strong partner. He serves on our advisory board. My board chairman in Washington, D.C., we had a meeting this week, a great guy, Eugene Terry. These are all great guys. So I salute all of them for what they have done to us. I would say I've saluted my classmates, but also some important seniors and juniors. Someone like Johnny was a good junior. A number in Legon, of course, I should celebrate the University of Ghana. The University of Ghana is the place that has allowed us to flourish. It's one of the great, of course, the greatest university in Ghana, one of the greatest in Africa, if not the very greatest, and perhaps one of the best in the world for strategic partnerships. Ghana should know that they have a university they can bless, and if they bless this University of Ghana, perhaps Ghana will be one of the best countries in the world. If Singapore could break through in ag development, Ghana can do it 1,000,000 times. Singapore can do it. Ghana. You know, before Brazil envisioned agricultural revolution, Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah, had said that we could turn the Sahara into a vast field of verdant vegetation for industrial and agricultural developments. Did we do it? That was in 1963. We had envisioned an Africa free of hunger. We haven't been able to do it because there has been no political will. I salute the government of Ghana. Of course, through the government of Ghana, we have this World Bank project, and so I should salute. The government has done something, but because there's so much that it hasn't done, it seems as if they have not done anything. And I think that is what should attract them to come into us, so that we do more for Mother Ghana, because the people are hungry, the people are suffering. We can redeem the people. We can eradicate hunger. We can. There could be zero hunger in Ghana if we got serious. And I plead with our political leaders, the decision makers, for the political will backed by urgent action that will drive all of us into work, so we solve the challenges that confront us. And to you, Ni, you approached me in Kigali. We had a good chat. I salute you for the camaraderie. I mean, I believe that this is the beginning of a relationship. You work in a famous institution that can change Africa, IFAD. And I tell you now, you have a best bet. You have a good win institution in working. So if you found yourself in the corridors of other organizations like the FAO, tell them that, look, if you don't bring funds to working in good time, perhaps Africa will drag for long. So we look up to you in Rome. Whatever you can do with us, for Africa, for Ghana, we'll be most grateful. But it was great meeting you in Kigali. Thank you so much, and thank you for the kind invitation to this studio. This is my first time here. I feel so good in Presec, and looking back, 1972, a small boy in Presec, I never dreamt that I'll be in a studio like this. So I thank you for the kind invitation.
Yeah, Prof, thank you so much. And Zonda, before you take it away, first and foremost, Prof, we are also very humbled to have received you, to chat with you, and to learn from you. It's been a pleasure. To Zonda and the production team, Eddie Fico, all the guys behind the scenes. Guys, you're really, really, really appreciated. I want to thank you for making this possible. To our listeners, thank you so much for your contribution and for listening. I believe that next week we will come your way with another edition. Till then, I'm handing over to Zonda to take us.
Yes, thank you, Ni, and thank you for doing this interview for us. You know, trying to interview such a giant was a big challenge for us, so we needed somebody like you to do this for us. So thank you so much. Prof, we are grateful for your time and for coming here, speaking to us and sharing your experiences with us. We pray that in future when we call you, you'll quickly come and speak to us again. Your advice to the Presec generation, and I hope that will be our concluding words. What do you have to say to the younger people here who are now up and coming before we go?
I think I shared a few words earlier. I want them to be hopeful that if I could do it, they could do 10 times better. Because in our time, we couldn't read almost everything that the professors elsewhere abroad read, but thanks to the internet, they can have access to every information they need. And if I were them, if I went into the internet, I would be looking for something that will advance my thinking to solve the problems that I need to solve. So they should use the internet well. They should not abuse the internet. They should use it well, because they have in them what it takes to change the world, and they should believe in themselves. And they should feel privileged that they are in a school that does not only talk, but does what it says it will do. I believe that they are going to see the light even better than I have seen, and I would like to commit to supporting this beautiful studio, and also the vision of the Agric Students Union in Presec. I have the Eric Danquah Foundation, which will consider supporting some of the things it can support if it falls within our, if you like, vision. But more important is that we have a scholarship scheme, the Eric Danquah Foundation, to award scholarships for individuals who want to go into the plant sciences. Okay. So if I found any Presec gentleman in the University of Ghana, certainly, and the person meets the minimum criteria, that is, you must be a potential high flyer. What we train, we don't look at the needy alone. We look at people who are gifted, talented, and can change the world, and mentor them and support them, and then accelerate their progress. Okay. So we are going to work with the studio and also the Agric Students Union, ensure that those who come into Legon can access and are eligible for scholarships can access some scholarships, and see what we can do. As for something to put on the table, I think, Johnny, you are my buddy, so we can talk about that behind closed doors.
All right. Yeah. All right. So thank you, listeners, for tuning in to today's Agric Panorama. We'll come your way again next week with another exciting program. Thank you for tuning in.